Hello, viewers. Hope you all are well. In today's segment, I'm going to share a few tips on how to give a successful technical interview. Before getting into the detailed questions of what can be asked during the interview, I would like to give a few important tips uh, on how to face the interview. So, how is your first impression going to look like? Considering the current circumstances, we all know that there are no in person interviews and a lot of emphasis is given on remote interviews or online interviews. So, first things first, make sure you have a very good internet connection and you do not face any interruptions in your internet connection. If that is the case, make sure you go to a spot where you have a really good bandwidth. You do not want to lose your interviewers during the interview and uh, result in letting lose their interest in you because of the interrupting connection. Secondly, make sure you have a good table and chair setup, a desk and chair setup for facing the interview, and you have a plain background like the way you see behind me. Also, make sure that you are formally dressed up. Another important tip is you have to make sure that you are engaging your interviewers through your responses. So don't make your impression monotonous. Don't have a monologue. Have variations in your pitch when you are answering the questions. Show good facial expressions. Be very warm and humble, and during the interview, try to start the conversation with a very bright smile. Secondly, you also make sure that you are engaging your interviewers by using arm hand movements that will give an impression to the interviewers that you're really very interested and you really know your work and you are very good at explaining stuff, and that also makes your communication a much effective when you're using the hand movements. So these are all non-technical tips. Now let's start on how the interview is initiated. So basically there are 2 to 3 different types of interviews. First is a one-to-one interview in which you are only interviewed by your hiring manager or your technical manager with whom you are going to work. So, second one is a panel interview in which you have 4 to 5 interviewers in that panel and on the other side, and you're answering each and everybody's questions. Third type of interview is in which you are expected to give a presentation of the work you have done in the past, and the questions are based related to the presentation and also outside the presentation. So the third type of interview is very much related to students who have freshly graduated and they are seeking jobs and they do not really have a very good work experience, and whatever they have is the research background and in which they can present their work, and the panel can ask questions related to your understanding of your research experience during your master's or your PhD program. The panel interview is more of where you are being going to be hired for a little higher position and you have an experience of 3 to 6 years before taking the position that you're being interviewed for. So it's very important for you to prepare for these questions, which I am going to discuss with you right now in this segment, and I might as well go ahead and do a couple more segments to try to include maximum number of questions and how to answer them. So basically, in an interview, what happens is the interviewers go ahead and introduce themselves. Interviewer or interviewers go ahead and introduce themselves. And there is a point where you are supposed to tell about yourself. So when they are done introducing themselves, they will turn the table towards you and ask you to tell them about yourself. Now, make sure when they're asking you about yourself, it has to be only focused on your technical experience and nothing related to your personal experience. So try to be more and more professional when you're answering these questions. Prepare for this question in which you can advance and have a compelling story about your past experiences. So don't try to drag your story a lot, but try to make sure it is very concise and brief and brings out a story in which you can pull your prominent skill sets from your earlier experience. That's what we call it here. Be she, SHE. Be succinct, honest, and engaging. Remember, you have to make sure that you have read your resume really well, and whatever you're talking should comply with what you have stated in the resume. And your resume is your impression in front of them. So be succinct, honest, and engaging when you're telling about yourself. Don't try to be overconfident, don't oversell yourself, but also don't try to demean yourself or don't try to undersell yourself. Try to know your value, try to know your skill sets, and make a story out of it. So really prepare well for how you are going to introduce yourself. The next question they might ask is, tell me a time when you showed leadership. So make sure you have a situation in your mind where there is a lack of leadership. When there is a lack of, what does it mean when there is a lack of leadership? That there were things which were haphazard, needed to be streamlined and planned, and organized. So you have to use the word lead to help and describe your actions you took to make that situation better. Give credit to your leadership skills when explaining the positive results. Remember, everything is about the company. Everything is about the company who is interviewing you. So show those skills which will coincide with the position they are interviewing you for. Another question they might ask is, tell them about a time when you are a successful team player. You were successful on a team. So in this under this question, you describe a problem that arose with a team. So go ahead and outline or highlight your key actions with the team. Explain the positive results. Those were based due to your actions, and make sure don't give credit to yourself, but give credit to your teamwork skills. So, another question would be, describe your most challenging project. People love to hear clear stories with a specific challenge. So, make sure you are very organized to define the project you are working on, and you were good at analyzing the challenge you faced in that project, and make sure to describe what negative impact you would have had if that challenge or that issue wouldn't have been resolved. And then very specifically discuss the action steps that you took and talk about the positive impact and how it helped the project become successful. Another important thing they might ask you is, tell us about the time when you can manage conflicting priorities. So it is very important as you climb up the food chain that you will be working on multiple tasks, multiple projects. So make sure to talk about the most important priority and then share some additional priorities and how they conflicted, and go ahead to explain them the steps that you took to get to the top priority done, and discuss how that impacted positively on the company or the team. Very important question they might ask you is, tell us about a time you failed or you made a mistake. This is a very important question in which you can show that you own up to your mistakes and failures. You own up to something that was not successful. You are a responsible person. So make sure to have an honest example, and that example must be believable. Explain how you figured it out it was a mistake and why it was a mistake. You need not go ahead and tell how you uh, rectified the mistake, but make sure that you have what you have learned and what steps you have taken to make that mistake, by showing that you are working on it. You did not let that go off because it was a mistake and it's a failure. Make sure that you're taking efforts to convert that failure into success, or at least giving an effort to make sure that such mistakes will not happen in the future. One more example would be, tell us about a time when you disagreed with someone. Make sure that these disagreements were related to your technological problems. Pick an example involving business practices and avoid personal quarrels. Give them the idea that these disagreements were not personal, but these disagreements were a part of constructive criticism in which you calmly explain both the sides or both the sides' point of views, and show how a compromise or a fuller understanding led to a good outcome. This will show that you are you are an effective communicator. Another question would be, tell us about a time when you created a goal and achieved it. So, under that question, you would want to tell about couple specific um, examples. So, make sure everything should be complemented with an example. So you have to tell them how ambitious and how focused you are, how driven you are. So when you are trying to explain this answer, tell them you are pick an ambitious goal that's a part of a bigger life journey. Highlight the obstacles and show how you overcame them and you did not fear and you did not step back. And when you are completing this particular example, this particular story in which you have shown your achievement, you finish it with an insight about the way your accomplishment has paid off. They might also go ahead and ask of the time when you had to handle pressure. So, most of the time when you're trying to work with startups, small businesses, or corporate companies, at every step you have to deal and handle different types of pressures. So you have to show them how skillful you are in working under pressure and still delivering. Be clear about the project goals. Establish that you are a strong person who doesn't get flustered easily. When that when you're trying to explain that, try to give an example in which you can show your ingenious side, and especially if your path to success involved redefining the task or enlisting colleagues. So these are a few example questions which are which are going to be asked by every interviewer, and it's always good to see that you are prepared, and preparedness is the first key to success. So let's go ahead and stop here, and I will get back to you with a second uh, part of this segment in which I will go ahead and discuss some more questions with you. Till then, keep watching my videos, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and Shabba Khair. Thank you.